What's up guys, my name's Luke and welcome back to Motion and Design. Sorry I missed yesterday, I just had no power. That's the beauty of living in South Africa. We have days where we go 27 hours without electricity. It's great. But yeah, I had this cool render that I did the other day where I mixed photography and 3D. I've done it a few times in the past before, but usually I did it just with a plane and then just use the plane and then, put my image on the plane and then work the 3D around it. But for this idea, I needed to actually have some physical geometry, so I was trying to figure out a way of how to do it, and I found this really cool tutorial by AskNK, where he used this GitHub link that's like using AI to kind of interpolate a 2D image and create 3D geometry from it. So it is not perfect at all. Like, I would not recommend this if you're wanting a really high detailed 3D model from like a 2D image. I think it would be better to actually go and physically model it. But yeah, for what I needed, I just needed some collider bodies. I saw this render, I think it's from Manvis Machine, I could be wrong. I'll have the render up on screen somewhere, where they just use all these strings. And I was like, that's super cool, let me throw that on me. And I was like, that could be cool. So yeah, I just did a really basic setup of a kind of a ratchet green screen. I mean, it's really rough, but you don't even need a green screen. You could literally just take a picture and then all you need to do is cut out the background. And all we're looking for is a simple black and white image such as this. Very, very beautiful. Yeah, luckily I was covering most of my face, so we didn't need to see that. But yeah, let's get into it. If you don't know how to remove it, I mean, there's a bunch of Photoshop tutorials. Alternatively, there's like some AI generated ones where it's like remove background. They're pretty simple. I think you can get some like free accounts from it. But yeah, that's the thing. Let's get into how we actually go and remove the background. So we're going to be using this the site over here. I will make sure to link the site and also AskNK's video, because I mean, without him I would not have been able to figure out how to do this. But yeah, we're going to scroll down to the bottom over here. We're going to go to code and click on collab. Cool. And once that's open, we're going to click on this copy to drive. So it might seem complicated with all the different, stuff that's over here, but it's really quite simple. I mean, it's like, 5 clicks to get what you want. But yeah, after copy to drive, it should open up another tab. We're going to scroll down a bit, and we're going to click on this clone PIFUD repository. Let's click on that to get clone. Okay, cool. And once that's done, you should get these 2 little folders. If you don't see it, just click on this little folder button. And we're going to go into this PIF UHD, going to go to sample images, and we're going to drag in our image. Just drag it in over here. It'll give you a warning message. Just say, okay, it doesn't really matter too much. And then once that's imported, cool. And once that's imported, you should get it over here. We're just going to go to rename file just so we can, take the text. We're going to copy that, scroll a little further down, and you'll see that there's this image path and image path over here. We're just going to replace the test with our image paths. Copy this entire thing, paste it in here, and then just delete this file name. Cool. And once that's done, we're going to go, actually before you do that, make sure you change this over here to connect to local time, to hosted runtime. It'll just make it a little bit faster if you don't have a proper GPT, that sounds wrong. No, graphics card. GPU, that's the word. Connect to host runtime. Just wait for it to connect. Cool. And once it's connected, it'll say connected, and then it's got a runtime, and click on run after. Cool. It might take a little bit of time, so just wait for it, and we'll be back shortly. And once that's done, you should get another folder over here and another folder inside of your PIF UHD with results. We're going to go into our results, all the way, just drop down all the little drop downs. And then in this last recon one, you'll get three files over here. You'll see that one of them is an OBJ file, and that is the file that we want. Let's go ahead and download that. Cool. And now look at that. We have a pretty decent 3D model. I mean, it's really not amazing, but for what we're trying to do, it's actually perfect. there is a few little imperfections and stuff that just is not great. But yeah, as a collider, this is perfect. So I'm not going to go in and fix the model. I think it's going to just take too much time, and this is kind of just for tutorial purposes. So I'm going to leave these little imperfections there. Let's grab a smooth deformer, drop that under over here, and let's just bring this down a little bit. Maybe around like 60% should be fine. I think that works. Cool. And now what we need to do is make sure that our texture is projected onto our 3D geometry so that we can actually light this 3D geometry. Cool, so for that, let's go over here and search for a background. Cool, and then let's also change our aspect ratio over here to the same aspect ratio as our picture. You'll see why in a sec. So 2268 4032. 2268 4032. Cool, so now let's add in our texture over here. Cool, let's drag our texture into the texture over here, and let's put that on our background. We're just going to use this to line up our camera. So yeah, you can do this with Redshift and Octane. It's pretty much the exact same process. So yeah, follow along either way. I'm going to be using Redshift, but yeah, honestly, there's really no difference in what I'm going to be doing. Cool, so let's line these up. I think I used a 42 more lens. Let's just something like that. I mean, that looks like it lines up pretty well. Yeah, spend a little bit more time when actually lining it up. Cool, that's good. Now let's create a Redshift material or Octane material, either or. And let's drop in our texture. So yeah, let's go to texture. Actually, now we can just drag this in. Cool. And with our texture loaded, let's drop that onto our material over here. And that is not perfect at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to change it to camera mapping and put our camera in the camera mapping. Now what we're going to move is this pixel aspect, and we're just going to move it until it pretty much lines up with our model over here. So now when you press play, just move this around a bit. Might be easier without that. Let's see how that looks. So it's a little rough over here, but we can get away with it by dragging in an alpha map. Let's drag in our alpha over here. Plug that into our opacity. And let's just get rid of that. And now it should work. Now look at that, we have a very shiny boy over here. Very nice and reflective. It does not look good at all, but it is kind of perfect for these purposes. Let's just bump up our roughness all the way because I am not a reflective person. I have quite a bit of roughness in me. And yeah, so I do have a bit of a double chin over here, and it does look a little bit wonky in certain places, but that's just because of the fact that the camera mapping over here, I think if you spent a little bit more time with it and also made sure that you kind of putting your camera in the same place that you had it when actually taking the picture and using a similar focal length. Yeah, so I did go in and do that for my render, but it won't really work if you're doing your own thing. So yeah, just mess around with the focal length and also the pixel aspect over here so that you can get it to look really good. But luckily for what I was doing, it really didn't need to be perfect because I was just mainly using this as a collider. Cool, so once we have that, we can start setting up our strings. I'm just going to pause the render for now and close that. And actually, just before that, I made these glasses over here. I'm just going to drop them in over here. So I noticed that it came in quite small. I mean, it came in at real size. I mean, if we had to put an out dummy over here, it is kind of to real world scale. Actually, it's a little bit smaller. But I found that with this rope dynamics that it is a bit better to have it a bigger size. So I just grouped both of these together and just set it to a scale of 3. Cool. And by doing that and having the camera in the null, we should keep everything perfect over here. Let's just add a protection tag onto our camera over here because the texture is using camera mapping. So if we had to move the camera around, it'll mess up the texturing. Cool. Let's just bring down our glasses. Something like that. Let's just make sure that works. Yeah, so one of the limitations with doing it this way is that you are kind of limited to where your camera is. So yeah, it's a little bit of a limiting process, but for just front on, it works perfectly. Cool. And let's go over here and add a circle. Let's bring this down maybe to about 100. That should go 50 for now. Cool. Throw that into a cloner, and let's set the size to like 5 by 5 by 5. Things like that should be good. Let's move it over a little person over here, and we can just increase the amount of actual circles there are. Cool. And then on our cloner, we're gonna go simulations and rope, and on our little person over here, we're gonna go simulations and collider. Let's turn off the bounce and turn up the friction because we want our ropes to actually fall onto our little person over here. That little person being me. And then we're gonna set the friction over here to about 5. Cool. We can also turn up the stickiness. Let's maybe set that to 1 just so it sticks a little bit better. And let's see what that looks like. Nice. So therefore, let's also just change how our circle is being used. Let's maybe change it to like natural and set it to maybe like to a number of like 20. I think that should be good. Let's also just rotate this a bit so it falls a little bit more naturally on my head. Nice. And now having, actually another thing we need to do is add a collider to the glasses. If you don't have glasses, then you don't need to worry about the collider thing on your glasses, but I have glasses, so I need to worry about that. So yeah, just add a collider onto that. I actually already have a collider. Let me just add it onto the glass over here. Cool, let's see what that looks like. Nice, we have the ropes falling and they fall on my face over here. Cool, so that's the one layer. Let's add another layer over here and let's make these about 100 in radius. And let's maybe do this. Yeah, I mean, luckily with the way that you're doing this, you just kind of have to re-simulate it. I mean, I think I re-simulated like 50 times before I found a result that I was actually happy with. But yeah, just kind of move around stuff. Another thing we can do, just to get some, that it's not so uniform, let's add a random effector. But we only want it to be like moving around like 5 centimeters and with a rotation of maybe like 5 as well, just so it's not so uniform when it falls. Cool. It's falling off to the side a bit, so let's move it like that so it falls on the shoulder. It's kind of fine, maybe a little bit more. So you'll notice that it's falling quite fast, and when it hits it, it's falling off really quickly. So a way that I was able to get around that is going into simulation forces and adding some drag, which is not in here. I have no idea where it is, so let's go Shift C and search for drag. It's XP drag, that's why I'm getting confused. It's actually simulation friction, that's what it is, and I set this to a strength of about 100. You can also use this to do like slow motion. If you want to do a really rough slow motion by just animating this, you'll see that if we had to set this to like 0, play, and then set this to 100, then it goes to like slower. I mean, it's a really rough version, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can get cool results with that. Maybe set that a little bit higher, smooth this over a bit, and let's increase the amounts, maybe 6 by 6 by 6. And same with this one, so 6 by 6 by 6. Cool, and let's see how that's looking. Let's go to our render view over here. Actually, before we do that, let's go and add a sweep onto these so we can actually see what we're doing. So I'm up 2 sweeps, cloner, add a, let's go with an inside, and set to a radius of like 1. Put that in here and copy that over here. And now we should have some geometry on our... Why do we not have geometry? Is it too small? Yeah, that was too small. So it's like 1, 5. What am I doing wrong? Do I need to throw this into a connect object? That is why you just need to add a connect object. Cool. These are a little bit big. Let's change it to 0.5, 0.3. Awesome. And look at that. So obviously I'm going to let it simulate a little bit more so that these actually fall down. Cool. I think that's fine for now. I think if I was really spending a little bit more time on this, I'd do another simulation of ones coming on the side as well, or just adding more to this one, just that my shoulder over here is filled up a little bit more. But yeah, and now we can add some colors to these. Let's maybe have one that's kind of like off yellowy, orangey, something like that. And then like one that's like a light blue. Cool. And the very nice thing about doing it this way is that we can now redo the entire lighting of the scene. So let's just lock our camera over here, bring this down. Let's add in a area light. And now look at this, we're able to relight it. And because we're actually using 3D geometry over here, we're actually able to get quite a bit of detail with the lighting. So the only problem with it, depending on the complexity of your scene, is that certain things will stay. If I had to hide the sweeps over here, you'll notice that I have this shadow over here coming from my collar. So in the actual image that I have, you'll see that I have the shadow still here, and unfortunately that's going to be baked into the 3D model now, so no matter what I do with the lighting, it's still going to be there. But you're still able to get a pretty decent amount of control with lighting using this method. Another thing that you can do if you want to, if you're happy with the scene, what I did was to, texture these all individually. Let me just group this for now. Duplicate it and just kind of hide this. And over here, let me just go this. Go connect objects and delete, so that now we have one piece of geometry. And now when we go to our polygon selection, you can click U and F, and now you can just go and select individual strands of, over here, and you can color these all individually, so you have quite a lot of control over like the art direction of it afterwards. So yeah, when I was done, I spent a decent amount of time just going through this and selecting a bunch of different ropes and texturing them differently. But yeah, that is the gist of the tutorial. Yeah, once you're done with this, you can change the aspect ratio over here. I mean, we can go back to, I don't know, square over here. You just need to make sure that your camera over here isn't moving too much, because of the fact that we are using that for camera mapping. So we can go up here and add another camera, and we can move it and reframe our scene, and it won't affect this because of the fact that this camera is staying here. So we're able to move around the scene keeping the textures in the same place. So yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It's a bit of a different tutorial than usual. Yeah, I have this project file up on my Patreon. I'm also going to include 2 others. So all 3 of them are going to have me in them, seeing as though I was, the person in the renders. But they're pretty easy to replace. Maybe this one is a little bit more difficult, but if you follow this process, you can get a similar result. But yeah, with the other ones, all you need to do is just get a, I've got a image of me over here, and I've got an alpha channel. And then all you need to do is just replace the image and alpha channel inside of the project files, and you can put yourself in the scenes that I created. The one is more of a motion blur scene, and then the other one is just kind of mess around with some glass. So yeah, if you guys are interested in doing that and, bumping up how, your Instas, get some nice pics over there for Tinder, get some huns, then yeah, you can do that. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. And if you like this tutorial content, please consider liking and subscribing. And if you want to support me, please support me on Patreon. But if not, that's perfectly okay. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.